Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's episode of Roundabout Sports, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media and by Harsh Construction LLC, with over 50 years experience in home construction, renovation, and landscaping. Call 618-363-9818. That is 618-363-9818. That is Harsh Construction LLC, a proud partner of Interstate 70 Sports Media. Thank you so much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. It is actually a really nice Wednesday, December 17th, 2025. Happy Hanukkah to all of those who celebrate 1 week away, basically, from Christmas Eve. So we are almost there. It has been quite the week in the world of sports. And before I get into all of that, I want to say my usual co-host AB would be here, but unfortunately his internet decided to give him a lot of trouble, so he is not here this evening. With that said, there is still plenty to talk about, and just as always, folks, remember Roundabout Sports can be found on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, Amazon Music, and any and all other streaming platforms. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, X, and the official Interstate 70 Sports Media YouTube channel. With that, I think it's safe to say we should go on and talk about the first major news in sports, especially in our area here in the Missouri area. That is that it was kind of a double whammy for the Kansas City Chiefs. Not only did the Chiefs get eliminated from the playoff contention last week, but they also unfortunately lost star quarterback Patrick Mahomes to a torn ACL and LCL. And so with all of that said, I mean, Kansas City, they still had a chance. Last week, in week 14, they lost, and it affected their divisional chances, their chance at the divisional title. Well, the Chiefs have officially been eliminated following their loss Sunday to the Los Angeles Chargers, which snapped their streak of 10 straight playoff appearances, or playoff berths, I should say, which is the second longest streak in NFL history behind the New England Patriots. And it wasn't just the loss of the Chargers that was the eliminating factor for them. It was wins by the Bills, Jaguars, and Houston Texans, all of whom were ahead of the Chiefs in the playoff race. Added in with the Chiefs' loss that eliminated them. Now, it's very unfamiliar territory because head coach Andy Reid has led the Chiefs to the playoffs in each of the last 10 seasons, and in 5 of the past 6 seasons, he's been to the Super Bowl. But this whole team has just been struggling to get any rhythm going, and a lot of that is the play of Patrick Mahomes. His 63% completion percentage is the lowest of his career as a starter, and his 22 touchdowns were also the lowest. But it was injuries all around and a beaten and battered offensive line, lack of a true running game. So it wasn't just Mahomes. Let me put that, out there. But yes, Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL and LCL in the fourth quarter of last week's game, and he will miss the remainder of the season. He's already had surgery, and the recovery time is expected to be around 9 months approximately. Now, according to the Chiefs, Mahomes underwent the procedure in Dallas with Dr. Dan Cooper, who is also the team physician for the Dallas Cowboys. With all of that, there's a lot. It's going to be a whole different playoff landscape without the Chiefs in the playoffs. They are third in the division right now, and it's not even necessarily close. They are 6-8. While they've only allowed 268 points. And you know what's interesting? I want to say, when looking at this Chiefs team, they are 5-3 at home, but they're 1-5 on the road, and they've lost 3 straight. And that is the biggest thing of all is the fact that they just cannot win on the road. And yeah, I can see we have Sean tuning in as always, and I always appreciate that. And he says he's sad right now, of course, because of the whole thing with the Chiefs. And then there's so many more questions that now are created. I think one is simply what does the future hold for the Chiefs because of Patrick Mahomes' injury. I think it could lead to them having to take a more broad view of the roster, because you take into account the simplest thing is there's multiple paths the Chiefs can take right now. I do think the first thing they should do is look at nailing the draft picks. If you look back, you see Tom Brady's torn ACL happened ironically at the same stage of his career as Patrick Mahomes has. And the Patriots had a great draft afterwards. And, the dynasty of New England had continued. So, also, the Kansas City Chiefs revealed why Patrick Mahomes needed surgery a lot faster than usual in these situations. And he and Rick Burkholder, who is the team president or the vice president of sports medicine and performance, explained they did the MRI immediately after the game. And that's where they found the ACL and LCL tears. They sought a second opinion. And at that moment, that's when they all went to Dallas to Dr. Cooper. And Monday morning, they had set up an appointment for him. Monday afternoon, they operated on Monday afternoon, and then they operated on him Monday night. So apparently, according to a article report on this, and this is the quote by Dr. Cooper, the reason he wanted to operate on him quick, or by Dr. Burkholder, was the reason we want to operate on him quickly, where we usually wait on the ACL, is because, quote, the LCL, we wanted to reattach the avulsion injury there. So everything was fixable and correctable, and they wanted to make sure it would stay that way. And that's, totally fine. So, the rest of the knee was clean, no MCL or PCL damage or any other ligaments. And now with the surgery already being done, he can focus on healing up. There was no nerve, joint, or artery damage. The meniscus is okay. So yes, like I said at the beginning, the recovery is about 9 months for this type of injury. It could very well be a month more, a month less, but there is a lot. I think Mahomes is in a great position when it comes to having the therapy and the rehabilitation that he needs with his injury. So yeah, we have that. Now, his ACL injury wasn't the only notable ACL tear that happened on Sunday, and that is with Green Bay Packers star edge rusher Micah Parsons. Now, Micah Parsons traded from the Dallas Cowboys to Green Bay this year in a blockbuster move. And with that, um, had great 12 and a half sacks, 41 tackles, and he has a torn left ACL, but he hasn't had surgery on it yet. The date of the surgery is going to determine when he'll play next season or when he'll be able to play. But there is a lot going on. So yeah, there's a lot to figure out for this. And this is what's interesting. You know what? And I love it. And Sean says, quote, it was going to happen sooner rather than later. And while I don't know if he's referring to Mahomes or Micah Parsons, it has been a bad year for the Kansas City Chiefs. There's still 3 games left to play, and now you have to rock with Gardner Minshew as your QB1. And Gardner Minshew went in there at the end of that game and threw a game-sealing interception for the Chargers. And right now, Denver has, by all means, they are on a historic winning streak right now. Not only because right now, after beating the Packers on Sunday, the Denver Broncos are 12-2, and they've won 11 in a row. Which is interesting because the Patriots were on a 10-game winning streak before the Bills beat them this past week. But yeah, obviously, lo and behold, the longest winning streak in the NFL belongs to the Denver Broncos, who've won 11 straight. Whereas the team with the most losses in a row is the Las Vegas Raiders with an abysmal, very abysmal 8 losses in a row. I just had to throw that one out there. Now to finish off our NFL talk, of course, comes my favorite segment of the show here on Roundabout Sports, and that is just how bad do the New York Jets suck? So that brings us to our lovely New York Jets. Well, the New York Jets lost again, and with their loss this week, they dropped to 3-11 on the season. But it wasn't just any loss; it was a bad loss, folks. We're at the point where Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback of the Jaguars, scored 6 touchdowns, 5 through the air, 1 on the ground, as the Jaguars blew out the Jets 48-20. How they even got 20, I don't know. One interesting thing of note, though, from that game against the Jaguars is the starting quarterback for the game, due to injuries and benchings and all kinds of Jets things, was former Mizzou quarterback Brady Cook. And Brady Cook went with 22 of 33, 176 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. Breece Hall led the Jets with 58 yards and a touchdown. But it was all Jacksonville pretty much in this game. Jacksonville pouring on double digits in every quarter except the fourth when they scored a touchdown still. But yeah, overall, folks, I'm telling you right now, it's not looking like it's going to get any better for the Jets either. Because at 3-11 right now, they're just fighting for draft position. Now we go to the Jets' upcoming schedule. They have the Saints, which is a winnable game, the Patriots, and the Bills. And honestly, I see them either going 1-2 or 0-3 in those games. So I see them finishing either 3-14 or 4-13. And with that, that is this week's lovely installment of Just How Bad Do the New York Jets Suck here on Roundabout Sports. And I will say, now we're going to shift gears now to Mizzou, of course, since, we're talking about Brady Cook. And we have some really interesting news for him, for Mizzou, and that is that, Ahmad Hardy, the star running back of Mizzou, was named the Sporting News All-American to the All-American team, had a great 2025 season, and this year he finished with 1,560 rushing yards, 16 total touchdowns, first team All SEC. He had the 300-yard game against Mississippi State, and that was definitely the big one. And at one point 3 weeks ago, he was actually the national rushing leader among all the college football teams. And on September 13th, he kicked off the year, almost kicked off the year, but he had a great game against the Louisiana Raging Cajuns when he rushed for 250 yards on 22 carries and scored 3 touchdowns. Now, on top of that, a lot of people wondering, what's next. So far, Hardy has played 2 years for Mizzou in Louisiana and Monroe. He's had 478 carries for 2,911 yards and has scored 29 total touchdowns. So a lot of great things to see from the young running back. Hopefully, he remains a cornerstone piece for seasons to come here at Columbia. With that, folks, we're going to kind of transition now from the whole football talk to, and this was one thing I know AB would have loved to have talked about if he was on tonight. And I know when he's back, we're going to talk about it. And that is, of course, John Cena's farewell match. So last Saturday night, Saturday night's main event, and the main event obviously was Gunther versus John Cena, and it was John Cena's farewell match. And for the first time since 2004, John Cena tapped out. And a lot of people got mad. But here's the thing. I get it. First off, he wanted to go on first because he wanted everybody to be able to enjoy the show. Was more than just about John Cena. Saturday night's main event was basically John Cena's show, but by showcasing a lot of the younger talent that's the future of WWE. And it was capped off by him being, in the main event against, once again, Gunther, who is a top current star in the company. And I look at how that last match went. You could see a lot of ring rust. There was a lot of slow pacing, crowd pleaser filler, the 5 moves of doom. And I watched it and I still got emotional because I said to myself, damn, I've been watching John Cena since 2005. And just like that, I'm never going to see him wrestle again, And he had wrestled at least one match every year since 2002 when it was, in WWE. I saw him come back from all these major injuries over the years and everything. So it was, I know everyone's going to give it backlash. But the thing of it is, people were never going to be satisfied. The main event received a lot of praise, It was the fact that he tapped out, um, which is what polarized a lot of fans. And what's interesting was the creative head, Triple H, Paul Levesque, got booed by the crowd in attendance and by everybody on the post show when he made an appearance at the end. And what a lot of people don't realize is that in professional wrestling, there is, and I hate to sound like an old person here, but it's what's called the time-honored tradition. And a wrestler in his last match is typically supposed to lose. Excuse me. There has been a couple occasions where a wrestler has won their final match. And I don't mean final matches in it just happened to be their last match. I mean in the sense of this is the planned final match. And I look at Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 24. Shawn Michaels beat Ric Flair, and Ric Flair retired, at least from WWE, until all that when he got to TNA and everything else. But that's a whole nother story. So I'm not mad at the fact John Cena tapped out. I mean, yeah, it's unconventional, but I will say it's weird to witness. I'm still kind of in disbelief. But hey, he's given his all to the business for all these decades, so I can't fault him. I enjoyed the show overall. I really thought that AJ Styles and Dragon Lee taking on Siobhan Evans and Leon Slater was a great match. We even had a champion versus champion match, and Cody Rhodes versus Oba Femi, which was a really good one. So I did enjoy that. So yeah. With that, I want to move on now to the latest news coming out of St. Louis, out of the Cardinals camp. That is this was a signing that happened a couple days ago, but it wasn't official until now. And that is that the St. Louis Cardinals, according to John Poe, have signed starting pitcher Dustin May to a 1-year contract worth $12.5 million. The contract includes a mutual option for 2027 worth $20 million or a $500,000 buyout. Now, let's see. Excuse me. The 28-year-old starter was 7-11 with a 4.96 ERA in 23 starts, with 132 innings and 123 strikeouts between the Dodgers and the Red Sox last season. Now in 2020, May helped the Dodgers win the World Series for the first time in almost 30 years. And overall, in 6 seasons in Major League Baseball, he is 19-20 with a 3.86 ERA, 57 starts, 5 holds, 324 innings, 297 strikeouts, 113 walks, and a whip of 1.20. Now, this is the biggest thing, though. Dustin May had Tommy John surgery in 2023. And John brings up a good point here that the Cardinals get a pitcher who has great upside if he can stay healthy. Because in 2024, while trying to work his way back, May had surgery for a tear in his esophagus, which caused him to lose 40 pounds and really dropped his velocity. So those are 2 big reasons he didn't do so well in the 2025 season. And, because he missed so much time. So esophageal injuries and Tommy John surgery are not exactly the easiest injuries for anybody to come back to or come back from. So right now, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, but right now you're looking at, with Sonny Gray getting traded, you're looking at Matthew Liberatore, Dustin May, Michael McGreevy, Richard Fitz, and Kyle Lehigh as the starters. Man, oh man, what a complete 180 from the rotation we had last year. Now, my question is, do you go out and try to find another starter? Do you go out or do you just roll with the names that I just mentioned? I don't know. There's a lot left to be desired with this Cardinals team right now. So now I also know that our very own Scott Plaza from I-70 had recently created an idea of what he thinks the rotation could look like in 2026. And you know what? I also love this. Scott said this, and it is true. There's an old saying where there's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal, and that does remain true with this contract. Because this is the highest workload Dustin May had in 2025, and he is only 28. He has a perfect chance to bounce back next year. Will he? Well, that's what is left to be desired. But right now, May, Liberatore, McGreevy are about to be locks for the rotation. That leaves guys like Richard Fitz or Andre Palante to also potentially compete for a final spot. And that's going to be what Ollie is going to really be looking at over the next few months. So, yeah, I do think I look at where the Cardinals are at, and I don't think they're in a bad position per se because, with Chaim Bloom leading the way now for the Cardinals, he has tried to be more aggressive. He is making it clear he hears what the fans are saying. And he's not necessarily asking for their patience, but he's asking for their trust. He's sticking with Ollie this year, which I do think is the right decision. Give Ollie another year under this new regime. If it works, great. If it doesn't, then you replace him. That's all you do. It's not the end all be all, I will say. So that's where I'm at as far as where the Cardinals are. I know there's plenty of other questions, and this is where tuning into the Redbird Rundown comes in, tuning into Cardinals on My Time. Like, tuning into our YouTube channel is so essential because with the trade rumors of Brendan Donovan, of Nolan Arenado, of Wilson Contreras, I mean, the Cardinals are not done making moves. It's not even 2026 yet. They are still going to be making I can see Brendan Donovan getting traded. For who, I don't know, but I see it happening. Now, with all that said, there is one interesting interesting thing regarding Brendan Donovan getting traded. So, there are a lot of rumors that we've heard, and the Mariners and Giants are who've emerged as potential frontrunners in a trade for Brendan Donovan. The Cardinals, now you may ask yourself, who are the Cardinals wanting in return? Well, according to Katie Wu of The Athletic, she says they are looking very interested in multiple prospects. So they wouldn't be getting established stars. Don't expect a Brendan Donovan for Julio Rodriguez trade anytime soon, folks. I admire the optimism, but sometimes you also got to be realistic. So we take a look at some of these latest trade rumors that are going on. Lazaro Montez is one with the Seattle Mariners. He's the number 3 prospect in the Mariners farm system, according to MLB Pipeline. Gavin Keelan and southpaw pitcher Carson Wisenhunt are 2 names from the San Francisco organization that have come up. So there's a lot of interesting, names that are circulating from the minor leagues that the Cardinals could potentially trade for. Now, there is interesting because I do want to say there's a lot of big league potential for Brendan Donovan. It may not just be for prospects. Now, you look at the 4 main players that the Cardinals are expecting to trade. Jojo Romero, reliever, Nolan Arenado, Wilson Contreras, and Brendan Donovan. Now, Ken Rosenthal from The Athletic says all 4 of them are expected to be traded by the Cardinals. Now, I think it's true because I think out of all of them, Arenado is the most difficult to trade. The no trade clauses start to kick in. We already had a big issue with that last year. So, that's where we stand in that regard. Donovan, we already know Brendan Donovan's going to get traded. It's just a matter of when and where. The Cardinals are going to be busy, and there's a chance all 4 of the guys I named are going to be traded. We're going to be honest. Now, I do like the idea of trading Jojo Romero because Romero is literally coming off the best year of his career. So, yeah, I do really enjoy that idea. So just give me 1 second while I pull up the latest on Jojo Romero's rumors from last year. Like I said, last season was Jojo Romero's best season of his career with a 4-6 record, a 2.07 ERA, and a whip of 1.41 or 1.25. I'm sorry. He only had 14 earned runs on the season as well. So I personally think he's a great bargaining chip for teams looking to add a, to me, top tier reliever. But with all that said, that is also where we're going to call tonight here on Roundabout Sports. Short, sweet, to the point. I know I look forward to AB joining me again next week. Or if not, Merry Christmas, of course. As always, folks, you can find Roundabout Sports on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Pocket Cast, Amazon Music, and any and all other streaming platforms. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, X, and the Interstate 70 Sports Media YouTube channel. Of course, we put up the NAMI helpline at the end of every show, and for that, you dial 1-800-950-NAMI. That is 1-800-950-NAMI. The National Alliance on Mental Illness is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated for building better lives for those who struggle with mental health issues. And of course, we put up the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, and for that, you dial 988. The line is open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. understand you're never alone in this world. There is always somebody out there who loves you, who cares about you, who wants nothing but the best for you. Um, we all go through a lot in the everyday world that we live in, and your feelings are always valid and you always matter. And never let anybody tell you otherwise. And when struggling, you're just a phone call, a email, a text message, an appointment away from what could be that life-saving moment and conversation for you. And you could be the listening ears and watchful eyes for someone else in need as well. So once again, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Once again, happy Hanukkah for all who celebrate. If we don't catch you next week, Merry Christmas. And until then, I'm the Maestro, Jeremy Karp. And remember, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth reading. Good night, everybody.